Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Awaken the World. We are live right now on this 28th day of May in the year 2021. Speaking your truth, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, live here on the Awaken the World group page. And you are with the Tiger, Garhen. Hi, how are you? And as you can see tonight, it's the Black Tiger. And I'm black from head to toe, actually. You know, all of it. It's all black. Yes, everything. So, and I just have to share a little something here before we get going. So, there's this piece of software I found, and I'm thinking about saving up for it to purchase it, maybe a couple months from now. And it's a studio quality avatar where I can literally be any one of thousands of different avatars, and I thought I could have a lot of fun with it because I do have a really impish sense of humor. So, of course, I was thinking of the black and a total blackout, background, and essentially it'd be almost like Cirque du Soleil. So, as always, let me express my love for each and every one of you. You know, you're perfect. You really are perfect. Perfect just as you are right now. And whatever you're going through right now, believe it or not, is perfect too. It's been made perfect as all things are. Everything already done, already written. It's perfectly okay. Now, none of that perfection has anything to do with you improving upon that perfection. In your growth and evolution, your perfection, just like your truth, which we're going to talk about, keeps evolving. So please, there's really nothing for you to be more than you are right now. You are okay. As a matter of fact, you're quite unique, quite special, and I love you. So let's get on with tonight's video. Tonight we're going to talk about speaking your truth and what that really means. And in order to understand that, maybe we got to back up and give a little bit of a better definition to truth. As, I always harken back to Rumi with this, So we go back a good 1300 years or so, and there's Rumi, and he says, the only truth on earth is that there is no truth on earth. And the reality of that is a lot for people to grasp. And I totally get it. Well, it's true, the sun comes up. Well, that's not actually the case. The sun doesn't come up, right? And we can go on and on and on. And for whatever statement you try to make to me that you claim to be a true statement, I will show you very easily that it's nothing more than an opinion, as all truths on this planet are. Now, we have to differentiate between being truthful and speaking our truth. So, being truthful is pretty cut and dried. Did you spill the milk? Yes, it was me. Did you run that red light? Yes, I did. Truthfulness and untruthfulness aren't really what we're talking about here. Although, believe it or not, being untrue to yourself or being true to yourself does come into play with speaking your truth. And I'm going to clear this up so nobody has to get too confused. It's true. So let's first throw the label out for a minute, because that label of truth has a lot of stuff attached to it. Primarily the idea of your truth or my truth. And of course, what comes right along with our truth a lot of times? The idea that our truth is true, right? That it is the truth. So, step one, throw the label out. Because there really is no truth on earth. There is a hell of a lot, or are a hell of a lot of opinions. And each of us has our own opinion. Each of us has our own inner truth of who we opinion ourselves to be in the moment. And the truth that you had when you were young is not the truth you had last month or last week or yesterday. Your truth, like everything else in creation, is an evolving perfection. So what does it really mean to speak your truth? And this is where things can get difficult for people. Speaking your truth is not about proving yourself right over someone else, because your truth is an opinion and their truth is an opinion. And there's some 9.5 billion, or no, sorry, 7.5 billion opinions or truths on this planet. Each one, another word for that would be a point of view. So when we're speaking our truth, the first thing we must understand is we are only speaking our truth as we know it today. And that truth has nothing to do with any sort of righteousness or rightness over anyone else. And if we choose to use it in such a manner, it's no longer even really our truth, because it just becomes an egoic projection in order to achieve a position. That position of righteousness or rightness that somehow sets us above somebody else. So how do we speak our truth and avoid all of that? Well, speaking your truth fully, openly, and honestly has to be grounded in the concept that they're entitled to their truth too. And that there really is no right or wrong truth, because we're always really just talking about opinions. So I'm going to give you an example of speaking your truth. So Kelly and I are walking down a trail. It's on it's a little forested 4.5 kilometer section. That's a high risk section. There's a lot of acidic soil going on there, a lot of acidification, a lot of tree die off. It's a delicate ecosystem, and there's a beautiful nature trail to stick to in there. And you're not supposed to bring your dogs in, and there's a very good reason to not have dogs in those sort of woods. They're incredibly damaging. And if you're going to bring a dog in, they have to be leashed, and they have to stay on the trail. So of course, time after time after time, you go in there and there's dogs bounding out of the bush and people not caring and everything else. And, Kelly would never say anything. Last time we were out, me, of course, I'm willing to speak my truth. Now, if I'm looking upon that other person who's doing that and saying, well, you're clearly a bad person for violating the sanctity of this nature trail and putting it at risk for the future and blah, 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 blah. If I'm doing that, I'm not speaking my truth anymore. I'm egoically trying to gain position over somebody else so that I can look down upon them from some sort of place of power over them. And it is perceived power, because of course there is no difference between me and you and anyone else. There is no above me or below me. We all sit eye to eye at the same round table. All of us, at all times. And in speaking my truth as calmly and compassionately as possible, you're inevitably going to get a response. Now, you don't own that response. What you do own is the duty to yourself to be speaking that truth as openly and honestly and compassionately as you possibly can in the moment that you're in that situation. It's not a judgment of whether sometimes it does resort to anger and those sort of things. It's not a judgment on you when that happens, but understand that if you're proceeding from anger, you're actually speaking out the fears within you, not the truth of what you are, not the truth of who you are, not the truth of what you stand for, not stand against. You know, one time years ago, Kelly and I and her youngest, the child I called boy child rather than calling him Danyan, and I thought it as an affectionate pet name for him. We decided we were going to go for a walk, and the IPE was on here in town. And there's a lot of people who come into town drinking, and there was some guys walking down the road, and right in front of us, and they finished a beer and tossed the beer can into the bush, and this was about half a block away. Well, I've got a voice that can carry for miles when I wind it right up. And I could tell both Kelly and the boy child, in the instant that that can went sailing through the air, they were already preparing for the inevitable response, which of course I obliged them with. And I called the guy out. And I was not rude or ignorant. I just let him know that this was our community, and that as much as we appreciated visitors in our community, we also appreciated them not trashing the place in the process, especially when there was a trash can another 50 feet further ahead of them. The guy apologized, said he was a little too drunk, didn't usually behave that way, and picked the can up and proceeded to put it in the garbage can. It could have gone a different way. I wouldn't have been the one to have involved myself in that unless forced to. So the thing to understand about speaking your truth is there are risks, but understand that when you're in that situation, all of creation is all of a sudden looking right at you saying, here's one of those moments that have been jointly created to test where you stand with yourself, where you stand in relation to your own beliefs, and are your thoughts and words and deeds in alignment? Because if you're thinking one thing and you're refusing to speak that out, you can make up all the bullshit you want as to why you're not doing it, but at the end of the day, you're not being true to yourself. And in that, dysfunction will begin. When you fail to be true to yourself, so if you're thinking one thing and speaking one thing and then doing something totally different, you're beginning to act contrary to nature. And that's not a judgment. It's okay. You can do it. But then you have to be willing to accept the dysfunction, the other side of the equation that's going to come along with it. Every time we fail to speak our truth as lovingly and compassionately and openly as we can, given the situation and our level of consciousness at the time, when we don't do that, when we bite our lip, when we stuff it back in, it begins to eat at us. And typically, what do we do with that a lot of times? Well, egoically, we love to blame that on other people too. And I always say, wait a minute. I'm not willing to be open and honest with them, so they don't really know the place I'm coming from. And now I'm upset with them because they don't know the place I'm coming from. And so the dysfunction carries on. Speaking your truth is something that the universe offers you as an opportunity to remind yourself of your own powerfulness, to remind yourself that the fears of ego need not be paid attention to and can be walked through with confidence that there is another side to it. And when you don't speak your truth, what you're really doing is setting yourself up for another occasion when all of creation is going to come back to you again. And this time it's going to be a little more glaring in your face. And you're going to be called upon again to stand for what you truly hold dear with yourself. I have to be very clear about this. Speaking your truth is not about gaining a position over anybody, because they're entitled to their truth too. Now you can say to me, well, okay, Garhen, so in your example of the person with the dogs in the woods, are they entitled to have those dogs in the woods? No, because we have a law that says they cannot. They're still entitled to do it though, and suffer the consequences of violating those conditions of being on the trail. I mean, I'm not going to report them. I'm not going to go through that effort. But what I will do is raise awareness. And that's what you're doing when you're speaking your truth. And if you can remember that and detach yourself from the concept that your truth is so in some ways any more special than anyone else's, like, I really need to get this through to you. I do not look upon myself as a teacher or guru. I look upon myself as someone with a very unique and large set of life experience who wishes to relay my experience to you should it serve you in your life. But at no time do I think that my truth is truly any better than your truth. Because like I said, we're all eye to eye. We're all being offered the opportunity to raise awareness. And that's really what speaking your truth is all about. It's about making someone else aware that there's another point of view, and that other point of view can be just as valid. Can be just as valid. And even in that, don't get too stuck on it, because our truth is ever evolving, just like perfection. There is no ultimate truth that we as a human being can grasp. I mean, we can talk about the idea that we are eternal as an ultimate truth, but eternity is an ungraspable concept to the human mind. Just like a very big number. If we talk about a Googleplex, which is a monstrous number, you have no way of thinking about what that is. And usually the symbols that come up in your mind will have nothing to do with a Googleplex. You know, trying to write down a quintillion number, a quintillion flowers, to imagine a quintillion flowers is impossible. Truth is not only relative, truth doesn't exist at a level that we can fully communicate with. We can know aspects of certain truths. We can know truth within the realm of the consciousness that we're in. But none of those are ultimate. And down on this planet, we're talking all about opinion. What speaking your truth does is help to change the world. So here's the only caveat to speaking your truth. If your truth, which another way of saying is whatever that you hold dear and true for your own self, if you're going to speak that out into the world, you must first check your own truth to make sure that it's going to have the effect that you're really looking for. And if that effect is anything else than to make someone else aware without judging them in the process, without belittling them in the process, without giving in to some sense of self-righteousness that your truth is more than their truth, you know, the one sign that the truth within you is really unsteady and hardly believed in by yourself is getting angry when someone else doesn't agree with your truth. The only reason you get angry is you're afraid that you're wrong. You know, we go to war with each other over the concept that we have a greater truth than anyone else around us. And yes, I'm speaking directly to religion right now. I've got some real news for you. You don't have the truth. You have a piece of it. And we all have access to these little pieces of truth. What we have really is a lot of opinion. And I don't care how many people claim to hold that opinion, it's an opinion. If your opinion supports love and growth and evolution and compassion and caring and wholeness and oneness, then I would say your truth is valid. And if your truth does none of those things and instead supports the breaking down of wholeness and oneness, the breaking down of compassion, the lack of love, if that's your truth, you're entitled to it. You really are. The last, probably the most important point is this. We are the ones who suffer or benefit most from speaking our truth. It's always about you. It's never about what the other is saying or doing. It's about what you're choosing. And your willingness to hear another's truth and examine your truth objectively and make a decision for yourself as to whether to incorporate some. You know, I was a Catholic. I started out as a young boy as a Catholic. Then I became a born-again Christian. I mean, my truth has changed as your truth has changed throughout the years. You know, some of those truths seem like a 180-degree spin. It's okay. We're just talking about those points of view. But when you speak out your truth, you're reaffirming the power of your own being and you're offering all of creation your one-of-a-kind truth. And others that resonate with that truth, they will listen and absorb that truth. And as that post said today, I'm not here to affect millions of people. I'm here for that one person who needs to hear this. Because that one person, awakened to the power of who they are, will do miracles. Sometimes to speak your truth, and if you follow me for any length of time, you'll know that I allow the deepest feelings and states of being to be freely displayed, pouring from my being. I have no shame. And I encourage you to allow yourself to be free in every aspect of your life. You know, that is also part of speaking your truth, is being authentic with yourself. Accepting where you are right now. And it's not your story. When someone says, "How are you today?" and you say, "You know what? Actually, I'm having an off day today." That is speaking your truth. That's not creating a story. Because you're not attaching yourself to your point of view. You understand it's just a point of view. And then maybe you follow up with that with, "But you know what? I know the things I have to do to get myself back on track." In every moment when we're called upon to speak our truth in situations and experiences and engagements with others, we are not being assailed or attacked. We're being offered an opportunity to spread that one-of-a-kind wisdom that only we possess. And each one of us on this planet has a gift to give all the rest. And you do. You especially. Right here, right now, watching this video, you have a gift the world needs. And it begins with being fully honest, fully open with yourself. With being willing to look yourself in the mirror and speak the truth to yourself. The truth that you no longer need to treat yourself in such a way because you haven't been able to speak your truth. To give up on the idea that you hold any guilt for not speaking your truth. The universe gives you opportunity after opportunity, and if not in this life, in another. But every time you do speak your truth, you will regain the sense of how powerful you truly are. And you will also come to understand the powerfulness of every other being around you. And the willingness to work with another towards a higher truth. A truth that integrates everyone. I know it can be difficult. Sometimes you have to speak your truth, clenching the sides of your pants so that people don't see how bad you're shaking. It's okay. Do the very best you can. Do not speak your truth out of anger, because the only truth that is of your own fear. Speak your truth out of love for yourself and love for those around you. That's it. That's all. Namaste. Have a wonderful evening. It's a little bit of a rainy, stormy night here. Really enjoying it, to be honest. And looking forward to a great weekend. And we will touch base again on Sunday. Again, all my love. Namaste. Have a beautiful Friday night. Take care.